Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Carney. Welcome to this presentation about your health with less medicines. Today our topic is perfect health requires perfect circulation. I operate a general practice just south of Austin, Texas. Our practice accepts patients of many different kinds, and some of these people have chosen to adopt a plant-based diet to take their health destiny into their hands. Some of their success stories are available on www.drcarney.com, and I hope you'll check them out so that you too can be encouraged that you can have better health with less medicines. I am board certified by the American Board of Emergency Medicine, and I no longer practice emergency medicine because I decided it was better to be a fence on top of the cliffs than to be an ambulance down on the valley, waiting to pick up pieces after they had broken apart. There's an ancient saying, the life is in the blood, and this reminds us that perfect health does depend on perfect circulation. My specialty is helping people to understand that they don't have to settle for the type of medicine that simply focuses on ill, pill, and bill, matching the right prescription with your chief complaint. There are ways to practice medicine that will help you to understand that you can reduce your dependence on medication, have better health with less medication. One of the ways that I have promoted this idea of a plant-based diet to patients is through the website Starch-Smart.com. At Starch-Smart, you can see discussion forums, you can participate in blogging your own journey or read the journeys of others and see their before and after photographs. You can share recipes. It's a social media site. Starch-Smart.com is currently free, so please sign up for a free membership today. Once upon a time, there was a lady who was 5 feet tall, and she weighed approximately 400 pounds. But 2 years later, she weighed about 200 pounds less after adopting a whole foods plant-based diet without meat, dairy, eggs, and oil. She fit into one leg of her former pair of pants, and her mom could fit into the other leg of her former pair of pants. I'm very proud of her, and I'm happy to say that her results are typical. People who adopt a low-fat, oil-free, plant-based diet with no meat, dairy, eggs, oil can do similar for their health. Not everyone starts out at 5 feet tall and 400 pounds. However, many of us have health challenges to overcome, and today we're going to explore the link that circulation provides to helping you overcome many different health challenges. So, what is it that you're seeking today? What do you need? Is it better brain power? Is it bodybuilding that you're interested in? How about gorgeous skin? Relief from aches and pains? And reversing diseases such as allergies and sinus congestion, being overweight, or having type 2 diabetes, which can be reversed by a diet without meat, dairy, eggs, and oil. What do you need in terms of energy level? Most of us could use more. How about lowering your risks for cancer, stroke, and heart attack, the big three killers in our country? Everyone wants to feel great, and you can enjoy your food on a diet without animal products or oils. It's possible, and I'd like to help you learn how. There are problems relating to animal foods such as acne, acid reflux, thyroid disease, arthritis, both rheumatoid, degenerative, and gouty arthritis. There's heavy bleeding each month for women, especially as they age into their 30s and 40s, and fatigue and sleep disorders are also related to the ingestion of animal products, such as meat, dairy, and eggs. Memory problems are closely linked to the consumption of animal products, particularly the flesh of animals, such as poultry, seafood, fish, and beef and pork. So how does food age me? Let's take a look at the role of the endothelial cell. You probably met the endothelial cell if you watched the movie Forks Over Knives, a great movie that you can see on Netflix if you have a Netflix account. The endothelial cell lines each human artery. It makes a smooth velvety passageway so the blood can go whoosh, smooth down the artery lining. The endothelial cell has a special job, which is to make a gas called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide dilates arteries to their maximum youthful openness. So how does food create pain? How does food prematurely age us? When that nitric oxide is made by the endothelial cell, we have less pain and we have a slowdown in the aging process. The nitric oxide dilates the arteries to give the healthiest blood flow possible to your hip, your back, your knees, your ankles, your brain, your ears, eyes. All of these things can be related to circulation. And the diseases that can occur in any of the parts of the body I mentioned can also be promoted by impaired circulation. So how do we nourish that endothelial cell? Dark leafy green vegetables have been shown to nourish the endothelial cells so that it'll make plenty of nitric oxide and you'll have the best blood flow possible. Brighter thinking, clearer skin, stronger muscles, more energy, lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol. These are only a few of the benefits that plant-based diets can provide when those plant-based diets are low in fat, especially with less than 20% of their calories from fat. However, there are diets that are rich in sugar, oils, white flour. Let's see, sugar, oil, and white flour, that makes a donut. And donuts are vegan. Vegan is a word that some people use to describe diets that have no animal products. And to eat a vegan diet is good, but to eat a vegan diet is not enough. You need whole foods that are unprocessed. Why? So that you can have healthy blood flow with less back pain through your nitric oxide made by your endothelial cells. So what happens when the endothelial cell gets hurt? Then nitric oxide production is cut, and then the arteries get narrow within 20 minutes. We call that vasoconstriction. And when the artery gets narrow, the reduced blood flow creates pain. Things don't repair as well. They break down faster, and inflammatory mediators are fostered in the tissues. When the endothelial cell gets hurt and no more nitric oxide is made, and the artery narrows down within 20 minutes, that reduced blood flow hinders healing, so that old injuries tend to keep bothering you as the years roll on. When the endothelial cell is hurt, aging accelerates. So what factors hurt the endothelial cell and cause no more nitric oxide to be made in sufficient quantities for good blood flow and good health? The fats in our foods can hurt the endothelial cell, and so not enough nitric oxide. America is addicted many times to animal proteins and high-fat foods that keep their taste buds hijacked so that these are the tastes that they prefer. The good news is that even though the animal proteins and the high fats in the food are hurting your endothelial cells and hijacking your health as well as your taste buds, the good news is that these animal proteins don't have to be part of your menu, and neither do the high-fat foods. Is coconut oil healthy? Many people think that it is today. However, coconut oil and olive oil are not healthy for us. How do we know? They hurt the endothelial cell. I am indebted to Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn Jr., MD, because through him I learned that oil is a fat separated from its fiber, and all oils vasoconstrict the arteries. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn Jr., MD, wrote a best-selling book called Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. And this book outlines a diet that helped Dr. Esselstyn's patients to reverse their heart disease. When olive oil vasoconstricts the arteries within 20 minutes after eating so that there isn't sufficient nitric oxide, the health has been shown to suffer in predictable ways. Who discovered this? His name was Dr. Robert Vogel, and he was a PhD who in 1999 developed the brachial artery tourniquet test. The brachial artery is the artery in the arm, and the brachial artery tourniquet test used a tourniquet, which in this case was a blood pressure cuff or a sphygmomanometer, on the upper arm. A Doppler ultrasound was used to measure the artery diameter after the stress of ischemia. What's ischemia? It's lack of blood flow caused by restricted arteries, vasoconstricted arteries. He measured the diameter of the artery after he put the tourniquet on and after feeding his test subjects different foods and beverages. So when he fed them different foods, he found out what foods vasoconstrict within 20 minutes. Within 20 minutes of feeding his test subjects olive oil, Dr. Robert Vogel discovered that blood flow was restricted by 31%, and it stayed narrow for 4 hours. So oil in our diet narrows the arterial diameter. How? By temporary vasoconstriction of arteries. And what does that cause? Well, it can cause poorer athletic performance. And temporary vasoconstriction of arteries can delay our healing. It can mean that our thinking is less clear. Narrowed arteries make blood pressure rise, and people will need to take blood pressure medicine if their arteries are vasoconstricted because of their high-fat animal protein foods 3 times a day. Oil raises blood pressure when we eat the oil, and that's apart from salt. Temporary vasoconstriction of the artery causes a higher blood pressure. Oil inflames our joints when we eat that oil because temporary vasoconstriction of arteries causes inflammatory mediators to be produced. What are those inflammatory mediators? They come from the arachidonic acid pathway, and they make joints hurt. They make joints swell, stiffer, more painful. Arthritis is accelerated and promoted by animal protein in the diet. Oil inflames the nerves. How? We've got a lack of endorphins when we're eating a diet that has regular supply of oil. The oil depletes us because high-fat foods hit the pleasure center, out comes the endorphins into the bloodstream, and then as time goes on, we sink to the unnatural low because we're depleted. Leafy green vegetables don't do that. And leafy green vegetables dilate the blood vessels by the medium of nitric oxide, giving us healthy blood flow, which helps prevent back pain. So nourish your endothelium by using leafy green vegetables at your breakfast, as if they were a pain medicine or a blood pressure medicine. When you eat leafy green vegetables at breakfast, your nitric oxide production is kept really good all morning. Don't wait until noon to eat your beans, greens, squash, and yams. If you eat them for breakfast, you've got a jump start on reversing some of your diseases. So when do you eat the oats and the fruit that you usually like to eat for breakfast? Why not try them at dinner and make dinner in the evening a much smaller meal? Try breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and supper like a pauper. Keep that evening meal light and early for best health results. There are people who start out at 571 pounds and after 18 months on a whole foods plant-based oil-free diet have achieved a weight of 429 pounds. Now that's still a big boy. However, it is much healthier with much lower risks, and that man is a happy man on a whole foods plant-based diet with no meat, dairy, eggs, or oil in his diet. The Starch-Smart System tells people how to eat more and weigh less, how to enjoy their food, and how to reverse some of their diseases. The Starch-Smart System involves energy from the sun transferred to the plant, which transfers to your plate. Now you want to know what hurts that endothelial cell. What were all the factors that Dr. Vogel fed to his test subjects that hurt the endothelial cell? We know that oil hurt the endothelial cell. What else? Tobacco, even the smokeless kind, and marijuana has been shown to harm the endothelial cell. So do alcohol and caffeine, but also cholesterol, which is only found in meat, dairy, and oil. These compounds, when taken into our bodies, can vasoconstrict and impair our circulation, which relates to all the organs not having sufficient blood flow to outrun the aging clock. Animal protein in the diet hurts the endothelial cell, according to the scientific studies, even if that animal protein is fat-free, like egg white. The fat that we eat, whether it's animal fat, which tends to be saturated, or plant-based fat, can hurt the endothelial cell because remember, olive oil and coconut oil are completely plant-based, and yet they're so high in fat, devoid of their fiber, that they harm circulation and impair health. Refined sugars that are concentrated also hurt the endothelial cell and vasoconstrict arteries, even if they're plant-based, such as maple syrup, corn syrup, or agave. Real men eat plants, says Rip Esselstyn, and he should know. He made his living for 10 years as a triathlete, and he worked in Austin, Texas as a firefighter, where he swung into action to devise a life-saving plan for one of his fire station buddies who had a dangerously high level of cholesterol. From this was born the book Engine 2 Diet, a bestseller that helped people because it's a cookbook as well as a book that shows you the science of how a whole foods plant-based diet can help you reverse some of your disease conditions. I'm grateful to Rip Esselstyn because he hired me to be the former medical director of his Engine 2 immersion. This was a wonderful retreat held at a beautiful resort just north of Austin, Texas, where the employees of Whole Foods Market were flown in twice a year, in the spring and the fall, to attend a camp in a beautiful resort setting where the diet featured was more a lifestyle than a diet. It was all you could eat, a buffet of breakfast, lunch, and dinner of foods that were completely whole food, plant-based, oil-free foods. Many of the Whole Foods Market team members had big health challenges like high blood pressure, cancer, diabetes type 2, and we had some type 1 diabetics too. The groups averaged about 100 participants, and they loved the food. They loaded their plates, and they could go back for seconds and thirds. There's no portion control here. There was a peaceful, serene setting that made everybody feel relaxed, and Rip Esselstyn himself is very inspiring because when you spend 10 years of your life winning races, eating a plant-based diet, you realize that real men do eat plants. Dr. T. Colin Campbell, PhD, is a nutritional biochemist from Cornell University, and we were privileged to have him lecture to the Whole Foods Market employees so that they could understand firsthand some of the research that shows how scientific it is to eat a plant-based diet. Many people didn't realize that there is plenty of protein in plants. Many people think that protein is only found in animal products, but that's just not so. And it really helps to have someone with the credentials of Dr. T. Colin Campbell and Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn Jr., MD, to help people see the science behind a vegetarian diet. Dr. Esselstyn is a Bronze Star winner in Vietnam. He's a Cleveland Clinic surgeon who's famous, and he won an Olympic gold medal in 1956. Both of them starred in the movie Forks Over Knives, and I definitely recommend this movie. It's very inspiring, and it's world-class in its quality. My employees are hard-working staff who measured the blood pressure on Monday and Friday, who drew the blood, and saw incredible improvements in biomarkers. Those are numbers that we measure about people's health. We could see cholesterol drop over 100 points in some people, and other people had their triglycerides drop 188 points. Blood pressures came down so well that some people were allowed to stop taking their blood pressure medicine because we had to stop the blood pressure medicine so that their blood pressure wouldn't go too low and make them faint. Many people lost weight if that was their goal and their need. Not everyone lost weight because many of the people who are averaging in their numbers were employees of Whole Foods Market who were the healthy eating specialists, and they came not because they had weight to lose or blood pressure problems to overcome, but they came to be inspired by the world-class lecturers, and their numbers are included in the numbers that you see here. But losing about a pound a day, eating all you want, loving the food and feeling satisfied, convinced a lot of Whole Foods Market team members that this was something that they could take home for life, and many of them did. It was all you care to eat, and participants loved the food. There was morning exercise by professional trainers, and many of these trainers had trained Hollywood stars and world-class athletes. This exercise was voluntary. Nobody was forced to participate. We encouraged people to participate because they would be sitting about 8 hours a day in lectures at the Engine 2 immersion, learning the science behind how a diet like this could really help their health. They ate delicious foods out of the Engine 2 diet cookbook, such as sweet potato lasagna and migas especiales and pizza and burgers, waffles, wonderful food. The people just loved the food. And they had fun together. We laughed and had a talent show. The bonding experiences helped people feel not so all alone. There were many success stories, and there were tears shed as people realized that they could go home and tell their friends, neighbors, loved ones what they had learned and how much better they felt, with carpal tunnel symptoms going away in 5 days. Not for everyone, but for many of them who had that. And back pain was less, and shoulders hurt less, and people knew that this was something that could empower them to take their health destiny into their hands. The wife of Dr. Esselstyn, Anne, brought her vibrancy and her wonderful explanations about which products are safe to eat and which products are unhealthy and trying to trick you. And her lecture is always enjoyed by everyone. The scientific proof has been documented on DVDs, and you can watch many of these for free at my office. You can find them for sale at www.drcarney.com or VegSource or the Dr. McDougall site. www.engine2extra is another tool that you can use to help you learn this lifestyle. There are embedded videos there, e-books, cooking demonstrations, there's blogs and forums, and discussion groups tailored to what you're interested in, such as moms with toddlers or people with cancer. In summary, is any oil healthy? No. Oils clog our arteries, causing atherosclerosis. There are 3 ways that you can damage arteries. You can slowly plug them over the years. That's called atherosclerosis. Number 2, you can shrink them within 20 minutes, like Dr. Robert Vogel did by feeding his test subjects the oil and the animal proteins. And number 3, within 3 minutes, you can go from 20% blocked to 100% blocked if an atherosclerotic plaque ruptures and forms a clot on top of a 20% blockage. So those are the 3 ways that you can damage circulation: slow progressive narrowing, atherosclerosis; vasoconstriction within 20 minutes because of what you eat, drink, or smoke; and clot rupture according to various risk factors, such as the more fat in the diet, the more likely the clots are to rupture. The higher the blood pressure, the more you smoke, the less active you are, the more likely the clots are to rupture. The progressive artery blockage can be studied in test subjects who metabolize fat very much like humans do, and those are the African green monkeys. Here we have a study about olive oil clogging arteries, and this was done by Dr. Lawrence Rudell, PhD at the University of Maryland. He studied African green monkeys, and since they metabolize fats a lot like humans do, they were a good stand-in for us. Their blood tests looked great when there were 2 separate groups, one with animal fat in their diet and one with plant-based monounsaturated fat. The blood test looked great, but the autopsy did not. After the animals' arteries were studied after death, their arteries revealed clogging, and the group that was using the monounsaturated plant-based oil, which is similar to olive oil, had clogged arteries, atherosclerosis, at the same rate as the animal protein group and animal fat group had. So what happened? The plant-based oil made the numbers look good, but didn't stop the disease. It simply gave that one group of monkeys a false sense of security. Is coconut oil healthy? Is olive oil healthy? My answer would be no. And I am indebted to Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn Jr., MD, and Dr. Robert Vogel for bringing this science to the public. All oils clog our arteries. There is a fascinating picture that you'll see in Dr. Esselstyn's book in Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease of a clogged artery. It's a long segment of the artery, too long for a stent. It's very distal. That means far away from the origin. And there's nothing much left after the clog to hook up to, so they couldn't bypass this artery. But within 3 years, on a low-fat, oil-free, plant-based diet of whole foods, that artery is unclogged. And you'll see in Dr. Esselstyn's book a second picture showing the angiogram dye going through that heart artery. No pill or surgery can unclog a blocked heart artery. Only plants can do it, and that's plant power. The cause of 87.5% of all heart attacks is not the slow progressive narrowing of atherosclerosis narrowing. No, the cause of 87.5% of all heart attacks is sudden plaque rupture. Atherosclerotic plaques, which may be only blocking 20-30% of the lumen or inside diameter of the artery, they can rupture and a clot forms which becomes a 100% blockage of that artery's opening. This can happen within 3 minutes, and if it does, it can account for 87.5% of all heart attacks. When heart attacks happen due to slow progressive atherosclerosis, that percentage is only 12.5% of all heart attacks. Atherosclerosis, the slow plugging of the arteries, only accounts for 12.5% of all heart attacks. There's a book called Whitewash by PhD in nutrition Joseph Keon. This is a wonderful book, and it gives a lot of scientific evidence. I especially recommend Chapter 4, Human Disease and Cow's Milk. Here you'll see the scientific studies outlined about how milk can be related to acne, asthma, schizophrenia, attention deficit, cancer, and how the ingestion of cow's milk worsens osteoporosis. Contrary to what people think, milk does not do a body good. In fact, the countries that have the highest consumption of milk in their diet have the highest rates of osteoporosis. But some of the even higher rates of osteoporosis are found in fish-eating Eskimos who have the highest rate in their population on the planet because of the animal protein found in the fish. What diseases are related to cow's milk? Acne, diabetes, menstrual cramps, precocious puberty, gynecomastia in boys, where a young boy's chest begins to develop and look like a woman's chest. Back pain, allergies, sinus disease, painful cysts of the ovary or mammary gland, acid reflux of the esophagus, which can be nicknamed GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. And arthritis can be related to cow's milk, whether that arthritis is degenerative, gouty, or rheumatoid. There is no protein deficiency in North America if you're getting enough calories. If you're getting enough calories, you're getting enough protein. Spinach is 51% protein by calories. Human breast milk has less than 5% of its calories from protein. And this is needed at a time when the human being is at a stage in the life cycle where it's growing most rapidly, proving that we need far less protein than we've been led to believe. Fiber is our friend, and it's found only in unprocessed plants that haven't had it removed, such as a juicer would do. Soluble fiber lowers cholesterol and is found in whole grains like oats and brown rice. Insoluble fiber cleans your colon, prevents constipation, helps you feel full, but it has no calories. And so in that, fiber becomes a weight loss miracle because you see fiber plus water together make bulk. Bulk creates satiety, and when you feel full, you feel like you've had enough to eat. But fiber has no calories, so it's creating that sense of fullness and satisfaction without any additional calories. There's no fiber in the animal products. There's no fiber in dairy products like eggs, yogurt, cream. There's no fiber in meat or chicken or fish. There's no fiber in oils. The fat has been stripped of its fiber. There's no fiber in processed white flour products unless they've added it back in and called it enriched. There is no fiber in Many of the juices that are bought in the store or made at home from commercial juicers. When there's less fiber, there can be more disease. When there's less fiber, we can create excess estrogen. I urge you to check out my DVD that you can find on this website that talks about excess estrogen and the risk for cancer, Alzheimer's, high blood pressure, blood clots. The less fiber, the more disease. Complex carbohydrates should form the basis of our calories. The majority of our calories should be based on vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes. Refined carbohydrates like white flour or table sugar are not so good for our health. Refined sugar clogs our arteries, but eating fresh fruit reduces our risk of disease. Dr. Neil Barnard has written a wonderful book called Breaking the Food Seduction. In this book, I learned how fiber can be a part of a healthy breakfast when you eat a vegetable and bean-filled breakfast, and you can cut your cravings and smooth out your blood sugar levels so that things are so stable on the inside that you don't have as difficult a time going through the withdrawals that people experience when they cut animal products and high-fat foods out of their diet. Check out Dr. Neil Barnard's book, Breaking the Food Seduction. It's worth a look. Dr. McDougall says that the fat that we eat is the fat that we wear, and I think he's right. The fat that we eat is also the inflammation that we suffer. The more fat in the diet, the more likely we are to make inflammatory mediators and suffer inflammation-related diseases, because one of the symptoms of inflammation is pain. The fat that we eat is the fat that we wear and can become the aging we suffer prematurely. When I cut out the fat from my diet from oils, I no longer suffered asthma symptoms. But if I were to add the oil back in, ask me how I know this, back would come the wheezing and the mucus. The fat that we eat can cause aging prematurely. There are 3 steps to finishing strong. You need to know the what and the why, you need to know the how, and you need to have the mindset of this is not a diet, this is a lifestyle choice. But try it for 30 days. You can do anything for 30 days, can't you? And I think that you'll find that as you learn more and more recipes on free websites like fatfreevegan.com and happyherbivore.com and starch-smart.com, you'll find new foods that you can enjoy without feeling deprived. This is not a diet of portion control or deprivation. It's important to eat big quantities of whole unprocessed plant-based food, especially at breakfast, because you're going to feel good and have even more energy. There are cooking tools that can make it easier for you to incorporate this lifestyle into your busy life. The Dutch oven can give you slow-baked starchy root vegetables that are delicious, especially if you have an oven timer, but even if you don't. Rice cookers are helpful, as are slow cookers and crock pots, but the Instant Pot is my favorite. www.instantpot.com will show you a product that has a stainless steel inner liner without nonstick. Pressure cookers can cut cooking time down to 1/3 of the original time it would take. So if you have an artichoke to steam, instead of taking 45 minutes on the stovetop, you can cook it in 15 minutes in the Instant Pot. Yams can cook in 10 minutes, and beans can be soaked all day and then cooked in 40 minutes in the Instant Pot and come out very tender. So whole grains can be cooked in the Instant Pot. It's a rice cooker, a slow cooker, a steamer, sauteer, and it's an electronic pressure cooker and more. So I don't get any money if you buy an Instant Pot, but I think that you'll find that this tool will make life much easier for you, and it won't put nonstick flaking off into your food, which could elevate your risk of cancer. To have the most energy, remember that fat in your diet is inflammatory. And so the less fat that you have in your diet, the more energy you can have. Be sure and take in enough calories, but don't eat meat, chicken, fish, or seafood. Don't eat dairy products, especially not cheese, if you want the most energy. I wouldn't eat eggs or egg whites or any egg substitutes that contain egg whites. The company Food for Life makes wonderful sprouted grain products that also foster more energy. If you want the most energy, don't use oil at all, not even extra virgin olive oil. Don't use canola oil, coconut oil, or any oils, plant-based or not. Use only whole grain products that say brown rice or whole wheat if you use wheat, or flourless or cracked or sprouted. These are words that help you understand you're getting the whole grain product. Go for the less refined product, such as whole oat groats instead of instant oats. Avoid products that say wheat without saying whole wheat. Avoid products that say semolina, which can be refined wheat instead of whole wheat in the product. For the maximum energy, try not to drink fruit juices, but eat your fruit whole and drink the water. I use walnuts and flax seeds in limited amounts to make dressings for salads. These dressings are made in a blender, and if limited to about a tablespoon a day, will help preserve your energy. But for even more energy, watch out for high-fat foods like avocado and use them sparingly. Try not to eat coconut, and if you're going to use soy products, try the light tofu. Avoid soy cheese, which often contains casein and oil. For even more energy, eat that big breakfast, that medium lunch, and that very light early supper. Brush and floss your teeth after each meal or calorie intake, and try not to snack if you want the most energy. But for the energy optimized, make sure that you're eating beans or other forms of legumes at 2 different meals a day, along with greens, which could be cooked or raw. Beans are categories, and this category stands for split peas, lentils, beans, and greens are a category, and that means cooked, like cooked kale, Swiss chard, collard greens, beet greens, turnip greens, mustard greens, or raw, like salads. For the maximum energy, try to get to bed before 10 p.m. each night. Many health conditions are related to staying up past 10 p.m. as a factor in diabetes type 2, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. Try to drink 64 ounces of water each day before 5 p.m. to have the maximum amount of energy. Limit the percentage of your calories from fat to 20% or less. Eat foods as minimally processed as possible, and exercise an hour every day. We all know exercise is healthy for us. It doesn't mean you have to pump iron for a whole hour. Perhaps 30 minutes of cardiovascular, 20 minutes of weightlifting, and the rest spent in warm-up and stretching and cool down for flexibility, which is very important to keep your muscles from getting injured. So, now you know what hurts the endothelium. And because we can boost the power of our endothelium to make nitric oxide and the best blood flow, we can look forward to faster healing on a plant-based diet, stronger muscles on a low-fat plant-based diet, brighter thinking, clearer skin, lower blood pressure, less cancer, and more weight loss, if that's your goal and need. Meat is bad for you, and it's bad for our environment. In the British medical journal Open, there was a study in 2012 in which men and women who consumed the least amount of meat and dairy had a 9.7% and 6.4% for the women reduced risk for heart disease, 12 and 7.5% reduced risk for diabetes, and 12.2 and 7.7% reduced risk for colorectal cancer. If we want a healthy planet, we need to have healthy water, not polluted water. What are some of the pollutants in our water besides industrial waste? Livestock waste. Excrement produced by livestock is produced in quantities that will boggle your mind. It's about 14 billion tons per year. That's more than 1 million pounds of livestock excrement produced per second. This is 60 times as much as is produced by the world's human population. The livestock excrement produced in one day represents more than the entire U.S. human population produces in 3.5 years. It takes healthy water to have a healthy planet and a healthy me. You see, it takes 66 gallons of water to produce 2.2 pounds of wheat, but it takes 6,600 gallons of water to produce 2.2 pounds of meat. The CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, have a fascinating slideshow on their website that shows by color change which states have more than a certain percentage of their population overweight. And you can see this progression start at 1985 and go all the way as the states change color and the population gets heavier and heavier and heavier. Notice which states are changing first, which states are changing last. The darker the color, until finally we reach more than 25% of the US population overweight. In 2013, the CDC's methodology changed for its data gathering, and they have different colors now and a different slideshow. But the fact remains that America's weight problem is growing. Are we as healthy as we think? Many people feel that since they have no symptoms, they must be healthy. But health is more than the absence of symptoms. Many people feel that because their biomarkers are perfect, that they're healthy. Biomarkers represent blood pressure and test result numbers on blood tests. And it's possible to have great blood pressure and great numbers, but not be as healthy as you think. What's missing? Well, if we are overweight, this represents a risk to our health for every pound that we are over our ideal body weight. But what if you've got no symptoms, perfect biomarkers, and you're not overweight? Is there something that you could be missing to be as healthy as you possibly could be? They've been called the 8 Natural Doctors, and a place called Weimar Health Institute has popularized an acronym called New Start, which stands for nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, which means moderation and avoiding things that are harmful, air, rest, and trust. If we don't have the proper amounts of these special factors that create health, we're not as healthy as we think, even in the absence of symptoms, in the absence of abnormal biomarkers, and in the absence of overweight. So I urge you to look into the New Start program, the Starch-Smart program, or Engine 2 Extra, or Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn's Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, Dr. T. Colin Campbell's China Study. Each of these programs is a way to educate yourself about how a whole foods plant-based diet can help you to safeguard your future. Thanks for listening.